So welcome back. So today we're going to look at a new project, and today's project is going to be involving making a pegboard. Now the thing about this pegboard is that it's going to do a couple things, and we're going to get through this step by step. So let's get into it. So the thing that makes this pegboard interesting is not that you're going to do some basic stuff to it, it's that you're going to actually work with movements, and we're going to use limits. So as you see, these parts are in here, but they don't move out. They stay to a certain extent in there without being pulled out. So that's going to be using the limits that we're going to be working on later. So let's go ahead and start making these parts, which are going to be real simple. I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new part studio. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply click on here on the sketch, and I'm going to create on the front sketch. I'm going to come in here and create my circle. I'm going to use a center point circle, which I can use just pressing the C key on my keyboard or the drop down menu, and coming here and looking for center point circle. From the origin, I'm going to put a center point circle right there. Now, I didn't put it exactly on there. It doesn't really matter where. That's fine. And I'm going to make this 1 inch. So we just want a 1 inch, which is going to be 0.254 millimeters. And I'm going to come up here and then extrude it. And I'm going to go ahead and use a symmetric extrusion. So it goes out both sides. And I want this to be 3 inches, which is going to be 76.2 millimeters. Now, the reason I'm using millimeters on my default measurements is because I do 3D printing, so it makes it easier to 3D print with millimeters. So, but Onshape will automatically convert it for you from the base measurements or any measurements you want to put into it if you stay on the default inches. So you just got to remember to put in the right measurement. All right, so I'll finish that off. Come over here to my Appearance tab, double click on this, and just change its color. Now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to rename. I'm going to call this the circle peg. Right there. And I'm going to rename the part studio, rename, to the circle peg. Now that'll make this a lot easier to work with later. Okay. Now I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to create a new part studio. And I'm going to do the same thing. Sketch, front. And I'm going to come in here, and I want to use a rectangle. So I'm going to use the R key or center point rectangle. So the R key on the keyboard gives you a center point rectangle. So I'm going to come in here, make a square. We want to make it a 1 inch square, just like we did the circle. So 1 inch, 2.54 millimeters, 1 inch, 2.54 millimeters. Extrude this, and I'm going to go for a symmetric and go for 3 inches. Okay, and that takes care of that. Appearance tab, click, give it a color, any color you want, click. All right, rename the part. So I'm going to rename this part square peg, and rename the studio square peg, just like I did right here for the part, for make it easier for me to locate later. All right. Now we're going to make one more piece right here. I'm going to come in here and create a part studio. Now we're going to create the pegboard. Right? So now for the pegboard, I'm going to decide to create a sketch here on the top sketch. Right? And make it easier for you guys. Again, I'm going to take my R for my center point rectangle. And I'm going to click on here. And now what we want to do is we want to make this 6 inches wide by 3 inches long. So 6 inches by 3 inches. Now this will make sense in a bit. There you go. We're going to go ahead and go right to extrusion. And we want to make this 3/4 of an inch. So we could do this as 0.75 of an inch. Hit tab. Or we could do the fraction. Again, it doesn't matter. It'll automatically recognize both. I'm going to hit extrude, and that's taken care of. Now, we're going to do 2 more things to this. I'm going to make another sketch here on the top. And I'm going to take my R, my center point rectangle, and off to here on the left side, I'm going to go just another 1 inch by 1 inch. You can guess what's going to go in there. And then I'm going to go with C for my center point circle on the other side. It doesn't really matter where right now. Just like that. And again, 1 inch. You can guess what's going to go in there. Okay. So now we have these down. I'm going to go ahead and just click on Finish the Sketch. Now I'm going to come in here to extrude. And I'm going to come and click on the square. Click on the circle. And I'm going to remove it and change it to through all. And I'll finish this. Now I'm going to come to my appearance panel. I'm going to change it to whatever color I want. And then we're going to go ahead and close the appearance panel and rename these. Not the properties, that's my bad. Rename this as the pegboard. And also rename your part studio. This will be very important later. Okay, so now that we have that there, all right, we're going to create one last part. So I'm going to come down here to create this right here, create one more part studio in our project. And now what I'm going to do is on the front sketch, okay, we are going to create a brand new front sketch right there. And I'm going to take my center point rectangle and I'm going to create a little rectangle here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make this, I'm going to start here at the bottom, okay, and we're going to make this at 19.05 millimeters, which, if you already know, because we already did this in the pegboard, is 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to do 0.75 of an inch. There you go. And then we're going to make this side here 6 inches. Okay. So that takes care of our first part. Now we are going to take another rectangle, but instead of using the center point rectangle, we're going to change to the G, which is the corner rectangle. So G, you see how it turns on? Right there, G. And I'm going to put it just above here, right above the origin, the center point here for this axis. And I'm going to go right across here like that, just like that. And now I want to take my mouse and just highlight this number right here. Okay. Now this is important because I'm going to put this at 3/4 of an inch. So this is going to be 19.05. Okay. So we know that that is also the same as 3/4 of an inch. Okay. Now, here's where things get a little bit hinky. And I say this in the nicest way possible. Okay. So if I put in the measurement that I want here, which is 0.375, which is going to be 9.525, it's going to do this. So watch what's going to happen. 0.375. Now you saw the measurement that was there before. Inches. Automatically, it will do the same thing. It'll give you that number. When this number turns red, it means it's over constrained. That means it's telling you, wait, dude, you already have this. Why are you telling me again? Look, if you have this problem, all you got to do is click on it once. When you have no control set or anything highlighted, delete it, it automatically fixes itself. Since we already made it half the size, 3.75 inches is half of the distance between here and here. So we went right to here. We don't really need to put a width here. We already had a height, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my dimension tool, hit the D key, it's right here, and I'm gonna go from the top here to here, and I'm gonna make this 1.5 inches, which is going to put me at there, 38.1. Okay. So now I'm at 30.1. I'm going to take one last tool. I'm going to come here to the trim tool, which is the M on your keyboard, M. And I'm just going to cut this little piece out right here. Okay. And now, once you've trimmed that out, you're going to finish the sketch. You're going to extrude. And you set this to 3 inches. And that's what you have. I'm going to come here to Appearance, click on here, give it any color I want, and I think I'll choose this blue right there. Okay. Now I'm going to change the part name, rename it to Pegboard Leg, and change the part studio name to Pegboard Leg. All right. So now we have our 3 parts: circle peg, square peg, pegboard, and pegboard leg. So now we're going to create an assembly from this. Okay. Now it doesn't look exactly like the one I showed you, but we'll talk about that in another video. So we're going to come in here, and I'm going to click on the insert. Now if you already have a blank assembly that you haven't used, use that. If not, come in here, create an assembly. Now, the reason I had the parts named and I changed the part studio names is it makes it easier. When I come in here to my assembly, I'm going to come up here to insert. And I see here, here is my parts, all my parts right here. And then there's sketches here. So I'm going to go ahead and just take my pegboard. I have a lot of different pegboards in here. I'm going to take my pegboard, bang. And I'm going to take my circle peg, and I'm going to take my square peg. See, they're all showing up there. And I'm going to take my pegboard leg. So right here is my pegboard leg. I'm going to click on it twice, put the 2 on there. I'm going to hit on this green check mark, and now all my parts are here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on them and drag them around. Do that to them. Okay. Now this guy, I'm going to show you a little trick. We want it to be facing the other way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it, and you see this control here? So if I click on this little button here, I can just turn it completely in the other direction like that. Okay. So now I'll leave it like that, 180 degrees, unclick it. So let's go ahead and start putting this together. Okay. So we are going to use our mates here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a planar mate. So in a planar mate, you have to do 3 connections. Because there are flat shapes here, we're going to connect this 3 times. So I'm going to take the planar mate. And the first thing I want to do is I want to zoom in here, and I want to make a mate right here on the flat back here of this cutout right there. It's flat back cutout. Okay, have it there. And then I'm going to twist it around, and I want to make another mate right here on the side here. So now that slams those 2 together. Now, if I click here, it closes all. If I click here, it lets me continue. All right. So now that's there. So now these guys are connected, but now they go up and down. All right. So that's a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to do another planar mate because I didn't close it, but it created it here. Another one automatically. I'm going to create a planar mate here. and then a planar mate here. Now, it did move it over to the side, but that's only because it's telling you that this planar mate is there. But we already have the planar mate here, so when I hit this one, it automatically slams it right back. Now, we have one more angle of movement. Okay, back and forward, same concept. Planar mate here, planar mate here, slam it together, but bing, bang, boom, now they don't move, okay? So now we have this right here. So when you do a planar mate, especially in a object like this, in a square or any kind of rectangular shape, you need to have 3 points of contact. Now you saw I have 1 point of contact here, 1 point of contact here, and 1 point of contact here at the side. So that's 3, that locks it down, all right? So now we'll do the same thing to the other side. So this is gonna be rather quick. I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go here, green check mark, here and here, green check mark, and then here and here. And I'm just going to finish this off because I don't need to do anything else for the planar mates. And now my planar mates are done and the sides are connected. Bing, bang, boom, we're done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, and I am going to come in here to the slider mate. Now for the slider mate, you see it's a rounded shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this right here, and I'm going to go to do a couple different things to do. Now, I could go with a planar mate, and it'd give me the same kind of controls. But we want to be able to slide this up and down, okay? So we want to go along this movement here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here. Now, if I click on Shift on my keyboard, when I see these marks, I can choose whichever one of these I want freely. If I don't, it kind of gets interrupted. So it's easier if you want to see all of them inside the hole, hit the Shift key, and then you can transition between them. So I'm going to click on the center one right there. And on my circle peg, I do the same thing here. Click on there. It moved it there, but if I do this here, it moved it right back to place, okay? Now, you see how this moves up and down? Yeah, I don't like this movement. So I'm going to come up here to my pegboard, see how it highlighted it. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to click on Fix. So now it won't move, okay? So now we just have our square peg. Now the square peg, we can't, well, you could do a slider mate here. So if I go here, and I slide mate this here, there you go. Now the slider mate is done. And it moves, see, that's a problem. It does that. That's a problem. So I don't like it. So I'm gonna double click on the slider mate, come up here, change this drop down into a planar mate, right? And that takes care of that. But now I have that. So now we have to do one more point of contact because we want this to move in a certain direction. So I'm gonna take another planar mate for the square and do it in here, right in there, and then right against this body. And for the square peg, this gives you all the controls you need. Okay, so that gives you those controls there. Okay, so let me go back to isometric view, give me a better control. Go. All right, so let's take a look at the movement controls. Now this is 3 inches, right? So we don't want these things to come out. So I'm gonna go to my slider mate here, right? Now if I come into my slider mate, right click on it, and I come down here, you should be able to see some controls. So for example, yeah, it's not showing up. Oh, there you go. So what I want to do is right here. So you see how that shows up right here? I want to go to my, double click on it, open up right here. And I'm going to click on my limits. Now, if I click on my limits, what I want to do is I want to do the up and down motion. So I want to set these guys to 0, all these to 0, because I don't want them to go in a certain way. Now, if I set these to 0, this guy isn't going to move. I want up and down motion. So up and down motion means a Y. So we have to make sure we set the right ones. If you set these guys to 0, it's not going to move. And we want to set these ones to 0. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to set no maximums. And let's see what happens. Okay? All right. So remember how I told you this is 3 inches? And I put it directly in the middle here? All right. So let's go with 1.5 and see what happens. Okay. So it goes up now. And let's try negative 1.5. All right. So it's telling you can't do that, right? So let's see what happens if we switch these numbers. We make one positive and the other one negative. Okay. So that worked. See how that works? So this one, the minimum has to be a negative, while the maximum has to be a positive. So I put it at 1.5, right? There you go. Now, if I animate this, and I want to do the Y, if I play this, it goes up and down, right? Just like that. So I'm going to finish that. And now I want to go back here to my slider mate. I'm going to click it open, double click on it. I'm going to set the limits here. Again, we have the minimum here. So we're going to put it 1.5. Remember how we did 3? That was important. Inches. And this has to be a negative movement. Okay. And then we're going to put here to 1.5 inches. Okay. Now, if I play this, there you go. Finish that off. Now, if I go ahead and right click, click on animate, and hit play, there you go. Now, if you don't know, the lower you set this number, the faster it moves. Okay? So if I go 50, you're going to see this thing fly. Okay? So that takes care of our pegboard for our current project. Now, we're not done with this, but at this point, you have now got this pegboard. In our next video, we're going to do some modifications to this. So keep an eye out for that one, and make sure you keep working. Practice makes perfect. Bye.